I woke with splinters in my gums. I wrote this as soon as my hand stopped shaking. If I stop, I think I will nod off. I don't want to. I went up to the cabin to prove a point. Off-season. Cheap. One room. Dark window that took up half the wall. No cell bars. No neighbors. I brought a little travel clock, a thermos, a cheap voice recorder, and a trail camera because I wanted to catch some raccoon or whatever was making the noises people talked about. I didn't believe in anything. I just wanted quiet. The first night was quiet. The kind of quiet that made your ears feel stuffed. I put my bag by the bed. The bed sat under that big window. The glass went black at night and showed my face if a light was on. I tried not to look at it. I set the travel alarm to 7 o'clock. I turned the latch on the door. It had a little brass slide. Old, squeaky. I left it open because the deadbolt was enough. I fell asleep, and then I didn't. It felt like I kept coming up to the surface and going back under. I kept thinking I had just gotten up and turned on the lamp and then it would be dark again and I would be on my side. I sat up once, or I thought I did, and I drank from the thermos, but when I woke for real, the thermos was still capped. The alarm showed 6:52 and then 6:49, like it blinked and lost 3 minutes. I blamed batteries. I changed them. I didn't think much of it. By the bed, on the wood floor, there were 2 damp prints like bare feet. Not muddy, not dusty, just wet. I had showered before bed using the cold water. Maybe I dripped. The cabin smelled like wet wood anyway. Old timber smell. Everyone says that about cabins. I wiped the floor with my sock. That day, I chopped kindling, read a paperback, walked the loop road. No bars. It was overcast. I told myself that was why I felt slow. I talked out loud once or twice because it was too quiet. I'm fine, I said. This place is fine. I went to bed early. I pushed the bed a little away from the window with my shoulder because my face kept thinking the black glass was watching. That's dumb. It was glass. It showed me. Second night got worse. I kept thinking I woke up, and then I would actually wake up. I counted 3 times where I thought I stood and went to the door and checked it. On the third, when I really did get up, the little brass latch was slid closed from inside. I didn't remember doing that. I told myself I did it in my sleep. I had long days at work. I was catching up. The alarm showed 3:17. I closed my eyes. I opened them again and it showed 3:11. The seconds ticked normal. The minutes were wrong. I held the clock to my ear and listened. It clicked once a second. I put it face down. A light knocking started then. Real soft. Tap. Tap. I lay there and matched it to my breathing without meaning to. In. Tap. Out. Tap. In. Tap. It felt like it came off the big window, but the sound in that room was strange. It could have been the wall, the door, the floor under the bed. I held my breath. It stopped. I exhaled and there was one soft tap like a finger on glass. It annoyed me more than it scared me. I said, "Stop it." I sounded stupid. It kept going. I put the pillow over my head. I must have slept because the next thing was the alarm showing 6:04 and then 5:59, and the light outside the window said it was morning. There were 2 small streaks of blood on my pillow. Nosebleed. Dry air. That's normal. I wiped my face and it came away pink. I tugged a piece of skin inside my nose and it stung. The floor around the bed had faint lines in the dust where something dragged. I guessed it was me sliding my feet when I got up. There was no dust really, just a thin film on the wide boards. It marked easy. I started making little tests then. That was the point anyway. People online said to put tape on latches to see if someone came in. I had a roll of clear packing tape in the truck. I ran a strip over the latch and onto the frame, nice and tight. I shook it and it stuck. I poured flour from the bag I brought around the bed in a loose ring. Not a lot, just enough to show a step. I put the recorder on the nightstand. I set it to voice activate. I put new batteries in the alarm and set it for 7 o'clock again. I tried to laugh alone in that room and it sounded wrong. Third night, I lost time. I sat in the chair facing the bed and held the thermos with coffee and told myself I would not lay down. The knocking came and went. Tap with my breath. Stop when I stopped. It made me angry because it meant nothing. Old pipes. My own stupid head. I walked to the door, looked at the tape. It was clean. The latch was open like I left it. I went back to the chair. My eyes closed. My head snapped. The thermos spilled a little on my jeans and it was cold already. I looked at the clock across the room. 2:11. I looked again after what I thought was a second and it was 2:19. I did not remember drifting. The knocking kept time. I told it, I hear you. I'm awake. That also sounded stupid. I woke in the bed. I did not remember getting into the bed. The alarm showed 4:02. I blinked. It showed 3:58. A soft hiss came from the recorder like it had turned on. The room smelled stronger then, like rain in old wood. Wet timber. The kind of smell in a shed when you open it after a storm. It felt colder across my chest, like a hand pressing down. Not heavy. Just there. The knocking synced with my breath so perfect it made my teeth ache. I held my breath. It waited. I let it out and felt the tap like it touched the glass, and it touched me. That was just in my head. I knew that. I pressed my palms into my eyes until I saw red. Morning had my nose bleeding worse. It ran and clotted. There were 2 new bruises on my forearms that lined up like oval stamps. 4 in a row on the left, 3 on the right. I pushed on them and they hurt. The flour around the bed had streaks and smudges and a clear stepping shape. The prints were mine. My foot matched. I stood in it to check. Same length. Same toe spread. There was water inside the print. Little beads like the print had been wet. I had nothing wet on the floor. I thought maybe I tracked in water when I took a piss in the night. I told myself that. The tape on the latch was ripped on one side and stuck back down crooked. Maybe I fussed with it half asleep. I didn't remember. I made coffee and it tasted burned. I checked the recorder after I ate. There was a long run of nothing. Then my breathing, even, deeper than I thought I breathed. A second breath under it, a little out of sync, like standing close to someone. I heard the knocking on the recording too, faint. I heard myself say, "Stop." I remembered saying that. There was a stretch later where the mic popped like something brushed close. A whisper came. I could not make words, but the cadence felt like a question. Soft, wet sounding. I heard my own voice answer plain as anything, like I was talking in my sleep. I said, "Yeah." Then I said, "Okay?" I did not remember that. I did more. I nailed a plank across the door inside because the tape made me mad. I did not come up with that on my own. My dad would nail a board when the deadbolt slipped on a swollen door. It was that kind of thing. I did 2 nails into the frame and 1 into the door, not deep, just enough to keep it from opening far. The latch I slid open and left because the board was stronger. I said out loud, "There, try that." I set the trail cam on a chair pointed at the bed and the window and door in the same frame. Motion activated. I did not think it would catch anything but me rolling over. I held out the 4th night as long as I could. Coffee. I took a cold shower and stood in it until I shivered. I did jumping jacks in that little room. I talked. "Wake up," I said to myself. "Stay with it." The knocking took my breath and pressed it back at me. Tap. Tap. The room smelled like the inside of a dock. I sat with my back to the wall so I could see the window and the door and the bed. The big window showed me myself in pale smear when the lamp was on. If I turned the lamp off, it was just a black square. I hated it. I nailed a blanket over part of it with 2 tacks, and it fell down again by itself because I barely hit the wood. My hands shook and missed the studs. It wore me out slow. My eyes closed and I opened them. The clock on the nightstand read 1:38, then 1:31, then 1:42. The recorder light blinked when it heard sound. It blinked to the beat of the tapping. I dozed. I jerked. The next time I looked, the room had shifted like someone had dragged the bed out a few inches from where I left it. The flower line made that clear. The bedfoot carved through the powder and left 2 clean lines. I sat up and everything went sideways, and I felt a cold pressure on my face like someone set a damp cloth over my mouth, and the wood smell went up my nose and tasted like sap. I spit, and it was just spit. Sometime after that, the trail cam clicked. That was how I knew I had missed a chunk. I picked it up in the morning and checked the images on the little screen with the arrow buttons. There were shots of me fiddling with it, my face close, ugly, then black frames, then one of me at the door with my forehead against the wood. My eyes were closed. My feet were in the flower and had left 2 perfect prints leading to the door. The board I had nailed across the door was still there in the photo. Behind me, through the big window, the glass showed almost nothing, just black. But on the left side of that black, there was a hand on the glass. Longer than mine. It had too many joints, or the fingers looked like they bent wrong. It was the only part of it that came out clear. The arm and a shape behind it blurred like fog in motion. The hand had water dripping off it. On the next frame, my head lifted like someone pulled my hair. My eyes were still closed. I stood in the kitchen corner and stared and talked to myself. "Artifacts," I said. "Motion blur. Smudge. Trick of the glass." I swiped past. My heart thumped shallow. Something in me felt tired, like I had been held in place all night by hands. My shins had bruises now too. Little round ovals. They lined up. I tried to leave. I'm not proud. I grabbed my bag and went to the door and remembered the board. I pried one nail and it squealed. The knocking started up then on the window before I even touched the handle, in time with my breath. In. Tap. Out. Tap. It sounded a little harder. The wet wood smell came on strong, like fresh-cut pine but colder. I put the bag down and hammered the nail back. "Fine," I said. "Fine. One more night." I pushed the bed farther from the window. I pulled it so it scraped the flour and made a long drag. I set the recorder right by my head and hit record without voice activation. I wanted everything. I put the alarm clock under the bed so I wouldn't see it flip around. I was getting superstitious and I hated it. The 5th night, the false waking got mean. I thought I sat up and wrote something. I thought I went to the bathroom and turned on the light and the bulb hummed. Then I was on my back again and the recorder showed 2:03. I tried to hold on and count. 1 breath. Tap. 2 breaths. Tap. I think my counting made it worse. It followed me. The room went colder on my legs. The pressure on my chest came and went like a slow tide. I closed my eyes by accident for a blink and saw someone standing at the foot of the bed, a shape tall and very close. I opened my eyes and saw nothing but the window being a black square. I closed them again because the lids were heavy and I saw it again. Same place. It did not move. I opened. Nothing. It made me sweat. I whispered. Not funny. I remember that. My own whisper sounded like I was already asleep. My nose started again, slow, and I sniffed, and the blood taste mixed with that wood smell, and I gagged. I told myself, move. Get up and do something. I pushed off the mattress and my hands slid. The sheet was damp from my sweat. I got to the door and put my ear to it. The board was there. I had to hear something. All I heard was my own breath and the tap to it. I fell asleep on my feet for a second. It was like a rug yanked. I jolted, and my face hit the door, and I bit the wood, and that was the splinters in my gums. It filled my mouth with dry taste. I spat little yellow bits into my hand. My teeth hurt. My tongue felt raw like I scraped it. When I turned around, my eyes crossed. I had a second of blank. When I focused, the nails I had put through the board were sticking out into the room like they had been pushed back from the other side. The heads that should have been outside were inside. They lined along the edge of the door, and they looked new, smooth and shiny like they hadn't been hammered with my bent old hammer. One lay on the floor at my feet, bright. My hand shook when I picked it up. It was cold. I looked at the frame where I hammered, and the wood fibers stuck out like something dragged the nails straight through. That did not make sense. I did not want to test it. The recorder on the nightstand crackled and whined, and then started playing my own voice without me touching it. No, it had been recording and hit the end and played back. That model did that sometimes. I forgot. My voice came quiet and flat. I heard the second breath under me. Then a whisper like a question, too soft to catch words, wet, close. I heard myself answer, casual, like a guy picking up a phone. I said, yes. Then I said, I can. I don't know what I said yes to. I did not hear the question when I was there. I only heard myself talk. I stood by the bed because my knees didn't want to hold. I sat. The shape at the foot of the bed was there again the second my eyes shut, like dropping a curtain. Same place. Taller than the bedpost. It looked wrong because my eyes, trying to close, tried to outline it and make sense, and failed. The cold on my legs pushed up to my hips. The knocking was fast now. It matched me while I panted. I opened my eyes and got the window, the black. My face reflected faint, eyes wide. I held them open until they watered and burned. The recorder hissed and clicked. It picked up a sentence like someone leaning right over me and speaking into the mic. I couldn't make the words. It sounded like the voice you get when you talk through a little slit in your mouth to not wake someone. I said, no, and I didn't mean it to be soft, but it was. It came out like when you talk in a hotel room, trying not to bother the next room. I put my hands on the mattress and felt the indent by my shins like someone knelt there. The sheet dipped. It was cold to the touch, like the cold had a shape. I slapped at it, and my hand met nothing but cold air. It felt like pushing into water that wasn't there. I got the trail cam and fumbled the buttons and set it to video this time and put it on the dresser facing the bed and the window. I said, if you're something, go ahead. I felt stupid even as my mouth said it. My voice broke on the last word. The recorder listened. The room listened back. My nose bled fresh. It ran down over my lip. I wiped it with my wrist and left a red line. The tapping stopped for the first time when I breathed. It stopped like something decided not to play. The quiet hit hard. It made the sound of my pulse in my ears loud. It made the wet wood smell fill everything. It made the pressure on my chest settle like a weight. A smear rose on the window slowly. I watched it start low and slide up like a snail track, but it wasn't a track. It had the shape of spread fingers and a palm. It was on the inside of the glass. Each finger mark laid down new and got heavy with water that wasn't there a second before. The palm had lines in it. It pressed and pulled up and made a full handprint at my eye level. A second handprint came below it, rising, like something climbed. I didn't move. I couldn't. I felt nails on the wood by my ear then, right at the edge of the bed frame, a little scratch like someone tested it. Little skips, then a drag. The sound was right next to my head, not the window, not the door, right there. I turned my head slow because I didn't want to scare it, or myself. I don't know. I turned and looked, and the sheet wrinkled and smoothed like something set fingers down and pulled them in a little. There were 5 shallow grooves in the wood I hadn't seen at sunset. They looked fresh. The flakes were clean. The recorder caught my breath speeding up, and the second breath closer, off the mic, almost inside it. It whispered then, clear. If I had to say words, I think it said my name. My throat burned. I answered without meaning to. My mouth opened and something like sleep took the muscles first. I heard my own voice say, "I'm here." I didn't mean it. It felt like the thing that makes you nod off in a meeting and your head drops. It was that, but inside my speech. I thought, stand up. Stand up and knock the lamp over and scream and keep yourself awake. I tried. My body didn't move right. It felt like when your leg falls asleep, but it was my chest and my jaw. My jaw stayed open a little. My tongue felt big. The pressure moved up. It touched my teeth and pressed them in like a thumb checking a bruise. I heard a little creak in the wood below my ear. The smell flooded my head, sap and wet timber. It choked me nice, calm, like someone holding your shoulders while you sit in a cold lake. The trail cam's red light blinked once, and I saw it blink in the window, and I saw something taller than me reflected for a slice of time. Not a face. A line of shoulder, a long curve. The handprint on the glass made a slow slide sound. The nails on the bedwood scraped one more time right by my ear, and then pressed, like they would push in under the skin. I kept writing this in my head while I sat there because it was the only thing that kept me up at all. Now I hear it. It is closer than it was. The hand on the glass is new and wet, and the fingers look longer now, and the print sits higher like it stood. The nails on the wood are quiet, and the cold is on my cheek. My mouth tastes like pine. I can hear it breathing now with me, over me. It is patient. It is right. I hope you enjoyed that one. Sometimes these stories stay with you longer than you expect. If you'd like to hear more, subscribe for the next night's story. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe watch another before the lights go out. See you in the next one.